Hey everybody, this is Perch. Now, I've talked about aspects of this before, but I'm trying to quantify exactly what people are talking about because it feels like one of those kind of urban myth statements that people trot out because it's convenient. It's convenient to make a particular point, but it's not an honest one or an accurate one. And so I want to debunk this one way or another. And having been, alive and paying attention at the time, I can tell you it was a fake statement, but basically, it's that this uproar of angry fans went on this massive, in some cases they say trending, because things that are important trend, uh, angry rant about a black man being Captain America. In this case, they're talking about Sam Wilson, the Falcon, becoming Captain America at the conclusion of Rick Remender's run, where Captain America is shown to be aged up, turned into an older man, aged up to what they say is age appropriate, except it wasn't. I mean, it was just he was aged up. He wasn't aged up authentically to his actual age because he'd be much older. I mean, he's running around running Shield. Anyway, this cranky old man. Anyway, Rick Remender basically did this at the conclusion of his Captain America arc, and then the Falcon got to be Captain America, Sam Wilson Cap. And it didn't last for very long. Nick Spencer took over at that point. They had Axis, and they had Nick Spencer's run, and then they had Standoff, where basically Captain America was restored, made young again. Not too long. I mean, I think it was less than 2 years. It was returned. Maybe even been less than a year. I see. This is where I should grab, but it was very, very little time. And some of the narrative was interesting is at the time, Bleeding Cool in particular, and this was really the only site that I saw doing this, although all the other sites then kind of chimed on as if they were also chronicling this history, which they were not. But Bleeding Cool ran a number of tweets like they do of people angry that Sam Wilson was Captain America. And of course, they picked a bunch of angry racist assholes who were making racist comments. It wasn't people saying, I liked Sam Wilson better as the Falcon. It was we don't need black people as Captain America. I mean, it was obviously racist crap. And I think that are those people out there? Sure, absolutely. Now, this is the thing. There are assholes in America and around the world, as it turns out. There are assholes. And they exist in every country. They're all over the place. Racism is everywhere. It's comical sometimes. They say racism is a America only problem. That's an absurd statement. Racism is everywhere. If you ever go to Japan, you will discover kind of how they feel about the Chinese. Spoiler, not good. So, but at any rate, Bleeding Cool grabbed these tweets. But even there, because I remember at the time being kind of disgusted by the way it was being covered, they grabbed like 8 to 10 tweets. Now, is that 8 to 10 assholes too many? Sure. Is that hundreds of assholes? No, there weren't. If you go on to Twitter, if you went on at the time and you looked for the trending topics, there were a handful of people making this argument, and they were making it very loud and very offensively and terribly. But they were a just ridiculously tiny percentage of people that were making these comments. You could tell because even the likes, I mean, none of these were strong enough to be anything. And then the topic did get trending, but it did not get trending because of the people screaming about how Captain America can't be a black man. It was people who were basically saying, SMH at this racist asshole. And that's what got trending. What got trending were people denouncing the small handful of loud idiots who were being racist. And again, I mean, nothing inherently wrong with that other than the message over the years became, we tried to make Captain America a black man. It's a huge legion of white fans revolted. And they kind of even then tie into it, and that's why Marvel had to turn him back not much long afterward because the fans are revolting. However, if you look at the sales at the time, sales didn't plummet. Sales didn't go up. Sales didn't go down. Why did Nick Spencer change? Why did he de-age Cap? Who knows? Other than a lot of people at Marvel, at the editorial side and at the writer side, hated Rick Remender. And they were determined to undo everything Rick Remender did. They erased the girlfriend love interest that Remender had set up for Sam. They de-aged Cap. They got the Falcon out of the costume. I mean, like the whole thing. They basically quickly got rid of everything Remender did. Why? Because they were pissed at him, and they were determined to erase what he had done. I think they were angry that he left to do creating their own work. I think they were a wide range of reasons. But basically, they worked to make Remender's life a living hell, and then they erased all of his accomplishments. One of those being Sam Wilson as Cap. Now, was that a bunch of angry, racist white people who were rejecting it? I mean, unless the angry, racist white people are the people within Marvel who decided to make this change happen, if that's what you're talking about, maybe. But it wasn't this legion of fans. Sales did not plummet. No boycott occurred. Nothing of any consequence happened. Now, were there a handful of again, racist idiots making racist comments? You bet. Did a couple of them say, I'm never buying Captain America again? Yes, there were. And the sales showed zero impact to those statements. None. So either the person didn't do what they said, or it was, again, a tiny handful of morons that mattered to nothing. That's the reality of this thing. So, again, this narrative that Captain America, this racist group of fans, it's an invented one. It's not real. It did not happen. Not at the numbers people said. And it's kind of a continuing pattern of comics taking, a small handful of people and intentionally exaggerating it, making villains out of these. Sorry, making villains is the wrong word. A lot of these people are villains. If you're a racist, crazy person who's out shouting about Captain America can't be black, then you're a rotten person. But you're not an army. You're a small handful of yokels. And this is the big difference is, in many cases, the comics media, because in CBR and Newsarama and others, and Bleeding Cool has certainly gone back to the well with this many times to talk about the time that this huge collection of racist people all rejected Cap. It's an invented story. It didn't actually happen, not like people said. And frankly, this is a good thing. It's a good thing that the wide collection, a majority, or even an angry minority of comic fans are not jerks. This is something we should be proud of and celebrate, and this is good news. This is a broken problem in comics, is that comics decided to highlight and inflate something that wasn't actually occurring, and in doing so, I kind of made everything uglier, bluntly. This small collection of people, if they had been ignored, and I understand the whole argument, you can't ignore racism because then it will continue to fester and everything else. I get that. But shining a giant spotlight on these people is also not a great idea, particularly if the problem is relatively small. The way this could have been portrayed, and it would have been accurate, would be to say, hey, a tiny group, a tiny, miserable, insignificant group of dumbasses rejected this story. And we pretty much ignored them because they're idiots. That would have been a perfectly acceptable and honest way of addressing the problem. But to me, and here, if I'm being honest here, if I'm being blunt, what it feels like is that somebody got scared of having the Falcon in that role and didn't like it, and wanted to kind of do their own thing with Steve Rogers and the whole Hydra storyline and all the rest. Somebody wanted to do this. And so they, and this being Spencer, but also editorial, it's not just the writer. And so basically what happened was they made this change, and then fearing backlash, fearing, that some people would say, hey, what the hell? Remender spent like a year and a half getting Falcon into the costume. Why are we moving away from this now? they conveniently got to use the story of, wow, racist asshole fans wouldn't accept it, so our hand was forced. And this just isn't the case. And maybe this is my weird conspiracy theory. I mean, that's the problem, is that none of this makes sense. It's not as has been described, and in the end, it's a non-story. Yet, even yesterday, it's now years past, people are still harping on this. They're still saying, remember that time that all the terrible racist comic book fans did this? And this is unhealthy for comics. Very unhealthy. It does not benefit this, hobby, this profession, this industry, this business to continuously portray a majority or even a large group of the fans as crazy racist creeps. It does not help anything. It's not honest. And all it does is paint an ugly light on things. And if anything, it winds up making people angrier. There are plenty of people out there who do not feel this in their heart, do not have any issues with any of this stuff, and yet they feel like you're calling them some of the worst names on the planet. And when you do that, they get angry. And when they get angry, they act out. And should they? No, of course not. But this is why it happens. It happens because you get them angry. You get these people you're radicalized, to lack of a better word. It does not excuse bad behavior. Don't get me wrong. Every time there's somebody's like, so you think it's okay for people to scream at creators on Twitter? No, it's not okay. But it's good to know why it's happening. And this is one of those reasons. If you portray your fan base as terrible, they will act worse. They'll get upset. And I've seen this argument. It's like, well, if they didn't have anything to feel guilty about, then they should know we're not talking about them. Yeah, sounds good. But then when you start randomly, blocking big portions of people, when you use the word toxic fans, I mean, yeah, it's a little hard to just say, well, I'll just assume they're not talking about me and continue on about my way. That's not how it works. And we all know this. So it's all silly. It is all silly. And I'll throw out there, for what it's worth, personal opinion, yeah, I like Sam Wilson better as the Falcon. I think the Falcon's an interesting character. I don't think you have to make Sam Wilson Captain America to give him legitimacy. I think he's got plenty of it as the Falcon. He's a cool character. There's a really cool moment. I think Jeff Johns was the one who did it, where the Falcon was in the Avengers and he faces down the Red Skull, and it's pretty great. I think that character is wonderful. Now, did I mind him being in the Cap costume? No, I think it was fine. I don't think the writing was particularly good. I think Sam was owed much better than that. It is kind of numbing to me that the 40 minutes or so of having Sam Wilson in the costume in Falcon Winter Soldier on Disney Plus was largely better writing and better, came across better than most of the comics. I find that kind of pathetic. But I would be fine if you had Sam in the Captain America costume. Completely fine. But I also think you should take more pride in who he is as the Falcon, because he's a cool character. And I think rather than constantly feel like, we gotta do more here, be proud of the character you've got. It's a cool character, my opinion. So I thought Reminder built to his story well. I think he earned it. I think it was fine. I was fine seeing that happen. And then I think they absolutely fumbled it with Sam. Just fumbled it badly with him, which is a complete shame in the writing of that character. So again, I think he was owed better than what he got. But regardless, this story is a lie. There were not thousands and thousands of racist fans screaming about this. There was a handful of them, and they were weird. They were largely ignored. I suspect at least half of them were just trying to stir up trouble because they're bored one day. And all the rest is it's propaganda. It's not helpful. It doesn't benefit anyone. And the comic industry doesn't need a fictional boogeyman to fight against. It's got plenty of real problems like sales and the revolving door and how creators are handled, and just what do you do with these IPs that are 50, 60 years old. There's plenty of real challenges. We don't need to go around inventing new ones, which is what this feels like that it is. But let me know if you have a different opinion. Happy to chat openly with you. Like and subscribe, and thanks for listening.